Me. Season 6 of My Hero Academia is right around the corner, and as we look forward to this season, I need to look back on this podcast for a second because I feel like we have moved away from our roots. The Class 1A podcast is no longer cringe, and I am not going to accept that. So, starting today, once again, you, yes, you, listeners, watchers, whoever the hell you are once again our students, and you have your 3 homeroom teachers, Advert, Apothecary, and Fanfic with you each and every episode going forward again, and you will be addressed as such. So with that, if you do not know each one of us, Apothecary is James R. Graham. My name is Andrew Nimsgren, aka Advert, and Dylan Beal is going to be Fanfic. So we're going to be going with that again. We're building up to season 6. Today is the season 6 primer. So we're going to be going into a bunch of different information, but also just getting ready for season 6. Will there be some changes to the podcast where we're going to get all that? And with number 1 being, I will promise you, we will be more cringy than ever going into this season. James and Dylan, this is not something we discussed fully coming into this. What are your thoughts on going back to being truly cringe, like every 3 white guys on a podcast are?
So I don't think you know what you signed up for, okay? Because when you say, "Oh, we're gonna be cringy," again, you don't realize who's the cringiest person on this podcast.
No, it's you.
I
know.
can,
No, we
I can,
do
I can unlock
realize
it.
that. I don't think that's a mystery to anyone that's ever listened to this podcast of pinpointing our personalities and who could go off the deep end very quickly.
Yeah,
James?
I think I just kind of like let it happen at this point. Like I will never I may be the catalyst for some of Dylan's like cringe rants, but I'll never stop it. I'll watch
I know,
it and then watch you and just watch you
just
try and
kind of
rein it
encourage
in.
it. You don't participate in it enough. So I'm going to force it out of you this season, and we're going to find as many ways as possible because we are your big daddy teachers on this podcast.
Yep. Nope, not that. Don't say that.
We're going all the way. We're committed this time. But we're not here to talk about that. We're not here to be very weird, only a little bit weird. So we're here to talk about season 6. And to start that off, I want to talk about where we're going to be able to watch it, how, when, all that kind of information, because we are 1 week away. October 1st is going to be the start of My Hero Academia season 6, and it has been confirmed on a bunch of it. So I went to the official My Hero Academia website. Crunchyroll's already put out something. They are going to be doing weekly episodes every single Saturday. It's going to come out about 2:30 a.m. PST, 5:30 a.m. EST. So depending on your time zone, we're in the US, so that's kind of time zone we're giving you. Sorry. But it also does look like it's going to be coming to Hulu and Amazon Prime. The website, My Hero website, marked them as advanced delivery. So I'm assuming those will be both getting those at the same time as Crunchyroll. With Disney Plus and Netflix will be getting it as well, but not the advanced delivery. So they're not very clear on exactly what that is. But it does seem like most platforms at some point will be getting season 6, so you'll be able to watch it anywhere you want around those times, or maybe later in the day, depending on what streaming service you want. There's also been a simulcast announced for the weekly episodes, but again, not much information. I'm assuming Crunchyroll is usually about a week behind is what they do. So if it starts on October 1st for the main one, usually about a week behind is when the dub comes out. Sometimes they do weekly and match it up, but that's not that very common. So we'll learn more about that, and maybe next week we'll give more information as we know. But it's going to be everywhere, and it is going to be super easy to watch. And just before we start going into actually talking about the season, for us and what we'll be doing. So right now, if you're going to be listening to this episode, probably coming around 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It depends on how much we bullshit going into that podcast. That is when you're going to be able to expect the weekly episodes as well. So we're going to have the 20 to 30 minute recaps every single week where we each wake up, watch it, talk through it, and you'll be able to catch the Class 1A podcast every single Saturday and learn as much as you can in this classroom. But with that, that's a little bit of the information of where to watch it and where to watch us as we go into season 6. We'll talk a little bit more about our format and things like that towards the end. But I think now I want to move into actually talking about season 5, the major plot point that's coming into season 6. Dylan, I've done nothing but talking here. So do you want to kind of talk with one of the major plot points that you think we're going to see in season 6 that started in 5?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one obviously is this war that we keep talking about. So every season we always have like the tagline that teases what's going on. I think it was last season, right? It was like new censored is coming. Obviously, it was new quirks or new power was coming. So we knew that's kind of where it was leading up to. But this one is like we know that there is a war coming. We heard at the end of last season, and we've been seeing on the trailer stuff. We see posters with just a ton of people, ton of heroes. We know there's going to be a war. That's it. There's gonna be something there.
Yeah, and they're not even teasing anything else in the trailers. Like usually there's like a couple parts that you kind of see throughout the entire season. Nope, all we're seeing is a bunch of heroes, a bunch of villains, and a bunch of action scenes. It doesn't seem like there's gonna be anything else. And almost for what I'm saying, I think that's just the entire season. I think we'll talk about more of what we think season 6 is gonna look like. But I think this is gonna be a one massive arc season, pretty much, with maybe a wrap up episode or two at the end, which I think is very different. But I agree with that. And James, what other one you kind of thought on? Possibly more Deku quirks? You think that's going to continue on this season?
I think, yeah, because like I mean, you really got to watch it. Like we know he's gonna get a bunch more quirks, but like, in what sequence are they gonna release them? Right? Are we gonna get like we've already got one? Are we just gonna get like a big dump of the rest of them, or are they gonna kind of trickle feed them? I want to lead towards more trickle feeding because that again, like that just provides more content. It like it stretches the story out. If you make Deku go from like 0 to 100 immediately, well, one, his body will probably implode, and two, it just doesn't make it as fun, right? So I definitely think we're gonna get. I want to say one, maybe two during the season.
I think two. I think two a season's good because if we have what
decent,
6,
right?
We have what 6 more I think coming, 5 more coming. So that'd be maybe at 2-2 and then one big final one towards the very end. I think that makes kind of sense for a good pacing point. And then it's kind of a little bit more realistic depending on how long kind of the seasons take in like canon time. But I think that's great. And then Dylan?
I have one more plot point, or I have one to add on there. What's the over and under, guys? Okay, of more keeping up with the Todorokis. Over and under.
100%. They might as well just create a like spin-off and just put it on whatever reality TV channel there is in every single country and just air that, because Horikoshi, I think, enjoys reality TV more than actually like creating the manga.
I wonder if he actually was watching a lot of reality TV when he did like the last season in manga form.
That feels what it is. Like, oh, an estranged child, a mean father, a sister trying to hold everyone together. Like, it seems like every like reality TV like kind of like drama ever. So I'm not against it, but
it's like the hero version of Shameless. Like,
yeah,
I think maybe not
pretty
as
close.
bad. Yeah,
not as bad,
there.
but it catches some of the vibes there. Yeah, so I think both of those, or all three of those, are going to happen. And I think, kind of going off of keeping up the Todorokis, I think there's a lot of character development threads outside of just Deku getting more quirks coming in here. I think seeing what happens with Endeavor and the Todorokis, I think obviously Hawk, if he's a good guy or a bad guy, where that's kind of happening. Season 5, we saw a lot of return of Eri with her not really doing much. So seeing if she comes into the fact at all, because we had her working with Monoma and stuff like that. And just overall, we have a ton of characters. So I'm sure there'll be a ton of opportunities for a little character to growth here and there, or major growth, depending on the situation. So I think those are a lot of things that have been started in Season 5, because, again, Season 5 had a pretty big cast of characters. The last 2 seasons, we've had a bunch of people introduced, and a lot of them didn't leave. So I think they're going to continue that in this season more than ever.
Yeah, I think that is something interesting. I didn't like fully think about that, but every season of My Hero, we get more characters. But I can't think of a lot of characters we just don't ever see anymore. Maybe the villains, because they get kind of locked away.
Yeah.
But like in terms of heroes, like we see them all the time, like constantly. They just come back. Like even if it's small little cameos, like even is his name Coda, like the little kid?
The kid, yeah, Coda.
Yeah, we see like the kids
horns?
show. Yeah, we see the kids show up sometimes, and yeah.
I think actually, come to think of it, the only like heroes adjacent that we kind of have seen like them kind of like drop off a cliff is the other school. Like that was really the other schools are the only ones
That's
that
true.
we really haven't seen come back, which makes sense. Like I mean, we're following UA, right? So like it doesn't make sense to have a ton of like school to school interaction, but like all the other heroes have kind of just been fairly consistent. I want more Gentle Criminal. Bring them back.
Yes.
And again, that's something they could just be hiding in the trailers. I mean, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of heroes. I mean, we've seen in a single screenshot, I think that's kind of one of the promo arts for this one. You can see more heroes in like one picture than we have ever seen like in all of My Hero Academia. So the chance of other schools and stuff being there, I think, is very likely, and they just might be kind of hiding that for the big moments coming up here and there. And I hope so, because I'd love to get a chance to that, but also balancing the idea of too many characters, too many little moments, so the moments you really care about kind of get flushed out. I think That's always a issue you run into sometimes when you start bringing larger casts, but it hasn't been an issue yet.
Yeah, I will add that actually in one of the kind of screen caps we've been reviewing, Miss Joke is actually fairly not front and center, but she is in the center. So I mean,
She
there
is
is
a pro
chance-
hero, though. I think that's a
she's pro
little
hero.
different than the school.
Yeah, I will say I did a couple calculations on that picture. It's where you guys see all the different heroes. I ran it through a couple neural networks to see who the most prominent character in this is, meaning we'll probably see them, maybe the main character of the season, and it is the mushroom. She statistically
Oh,
is
I
in
thought
the
you were going to
perfect
say Mud
location.
Lady. I mean,
I'm
when I look at
really
that
waiting
picture,
for,
Mud
like,
Lady
some,
stands out
like-
to me.
I was waiting for some good analysis here, and then
Oh,
no,
God,
it's
no.
just no. Like,
Unless
what
Dylan
was
makes
I-
a certain
what was I
video where he
thinking?
wants to seem really smart, you will never get a good analysis out of that kid. He only memes on the podcast, and he does his one-off videos for good analysis content. He
There's
holds that
a-
back from us.
There's an Ewok in this picture.
There
Yeah.
absolutely is an Ewok. Of course, it's
It's
Horikoshi.
Horikoshi, yeah.
Yeah, so well, for what this is this we'll be kind of referencing things as we kind of go into. One of our favorite topic lists is what we've seen from the trailers and pictures that we can speculate on. That's kind of what we're going off right now. This is that major hero kind of gathering one where we see Ed Shot in front. You see Fat Gum, you see a lot of the heroes kind of there. It's in the trailer a couple times. They share the pictures just kind of by itself as well. So if we're ever kind of talking about stuff like that, just go to My Hero Twitter. It's going to be one of the pictures of videos there that we're kind of referencing. We'll do our best to explain what we're seeing. But that's kind of what we're talking about right there. But so I think outside of the tons of characters, I think Shigaraki has also kind of been a point that in our season 5 recap at the end, Dylan, I think you talked about him. We actually gave him the plus ultra of the season because we saw at the very end of the season there was a drastic change in his character, and now we've seen him in some back to tubes and all that kind of stuff. He's healing, he's getting powers, he's doing something. They talked about quirk singularity, so I think changes to Shigaraki are coming, which I think only makes sense as Deku. We learned last season also having major changes. I mean, what do we think that's going to be? Do we think he's just going to be hidden away most of the season? Do you think he's going to be a big threat from right away and it's going to be Deku and him fighting the entire season? What's going to happen here?
Well, I mean, like, I think it kind of writes itself almost of like if it is a really big war and Shigaraki is getting some sort of new stuff, that like he's like the final boss of this war that's here. Like I feel like it like I said, almost writes itself, right? Of where like I can imagine just like the scenes of like them fighting, heroes are winning, Shigaraki like does his thing as like I am the king now because of whatever I got. But I think that's a parallel I didn't even think about of like him and Deku both kind of going through some sort of transformation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost kind of needed at some point. I mean, you got to kind of up the scales, and especially we all thought Shigaraki was kind of whatever early on because he was kind of a shitty little boy, and once you kind of get any kind of powers that can keep you away from being touched, it makes him pretty weak. So him being upgraded, and again, he has been trained to kind of be the next all for one kind of throughout the series, as it's kind of been hinted at. So it would make sense that at some point he might get more quirks, kind of using the Nomu technology or some kind of like that. I think it makes sense that both sides get a couple more quirks to balance it out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's kind of set up with 9, right?
True.
Like
Yeah.
we do have it set up with 9 of where you can just like jam multiple quirks into people. So it makes sense they would just start jamming stuff into Shigaraki.
I feel like you kind of had to at some point too, because like he was starting to like plateau as a villain. Like I think Dylan, we were talking about it the other day, where like you need like a quirk awakening, but you can only do that so much. You can't like just keep like having those like the DBZ universe does not transfer over to My Hero, where it's just like, oh, they get more jacked up depending on like how powerful they're against there's somebody fighting. No, that's not how the system works. So like, yeah, you do got to find other ways to like kind of circumvent that.
Yeah, which they've already brought into canon through the movies, through the Nomus, through stuff kind of like that. We've seen multiple characters introduced with multiple quirks. So I think it makes sense on both sides, and I'm excited to see that. I mean, so not only is it asking the questions of what Deku's new quirks are, we could also be asked the question of shit, like what else does Shigaraki have as well? Like, oh, Deku unlocked a new quirk, and then Shigaraki comes right around with the 1-2. And I think that could be a really cool dynamic of each one trying to up each other as the season kind of goes on with different powers. So I think it opens up to a lot of really cool fights and hopefully amazing animation. I think is something you really want to see with this. But I think, is there anything else? I mean, we've seen trailers, seen videos. We're a week away. I mean, just what else do we want to speculate on, talk about? I mean, is there anything else you're looking forward to or really hoping we see in the season, or are we just kind of waiting for it to happen at this point?
I'm actually really interested about Hawks and seeing where that goes because I don't. I just thought of this of like, so Hawks is doing some weird stuff. He's in this like weird like every episode of last season felt like he's good, bad. He's good, like we don't know where he's standing. What if he's like? What if he like betrays
What
the
if he just
heroes in
betrays
this?
everyone and leaves? Just goes off by himself. Like he
Ooh.
truly doesn't care about anyone. So he'll take out someone on the villain side, take out someone on the hero side, saying, "Yeah, this is actually kind of boring," and go do something else and
Well,
become
I mean,
a
just
true
dip.
main villain.
Well, that's not his thing though. Like his thing is like he wants to create a world where heroes don't have to worry. What if he just like
yeah, but then he
okay?
also
What if he
kills
just
Best
no?
Jeanist, So
What if he just kills everybody? Because if all the villains and all the heroes are dead, there's no more problems.
More problems.
I'm like half joking here, but like I don't know. Like if he's down to kill Genist, he might be down to kill more people.
like, can we see him like I'm like Hawks is incredibly powerful. He's number 2 for a reason, right? But like, do we really think he can just take out?
he can't
everyone?
solo. He
No,
can't.
he's
solo
smart
those.
though. It's not about him using
He's
his
just
quirk.
smart. Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, no, this isn't Jinwoo. I don't think he can one-man army it.
That would be great. I think there's something. I mean, I think no matter what happens here, there's going to be an outcome to the Hawk situation this season. I don't think you can continue on the good guy, bad guy thing for a second season, especially in a war where you kind of have to pick sides. So either he has to dip, has to kill everyone. Both of those are kind of unlikely based on how much they've kind of set it up. And we know that Hawks is being tracked by the Metal Liberation Army. So with both that happening, it's more likely that he's going to pick one of the sides and fight alongside that side. So it'll be curious to see what way he kind of goes down the rabbit hole there.
But espionage is always fun. Like espionage is a nice component of warfare to like I mean we can have tons of action and stuff like that, but if you don't have that extra little element, it can be boring. I'm not saying it will be boring, but I'm saying like unless you have that extra little bit, it spices it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
little bit of Salt Bay just on top.
I completely agree, and I think that's kind of why I want to wrap up the season. I don't say it has to be wrapped up by season 2, but if it goes into season 7, that feels weird to say.
Yeah,
it might just get a little bit old at that point. You need a new kind of angle on it. So I think early on I talked about that this was just gonna be one big war arc. Are we still standing by that? Like, do you think they would have teased something else at this point? I guess I don't remember too much of like kind of build ups for seasons, but I feel like this has been the most we've ever focused on like one arc, and that are we just going to see a one arc season? There's not going to be any filler bullshit. There's not going to be that little like, oh, a flashback to 6 episodes of all the students just hanging out. Like, you think they're committing to just a battle and having an outcome to the season?
I think there could be. It's really hard to tell because we didn't really see much in the trailer as opposed to some of the other ones. It just makes me feel like whatever happens is very transformative. So like, I don't know, like maybe they're in a really weird place. Like, okay, I'm gonna exaggerate, right? But like they're in space or some stuff, right? Like some place that like is like if you give away any of the location, like it's like, oh, this kind of like ruins it. So like maybe they go someplace that's super interesting.
Once that loses, they're in America now for like a part of the season and have to recover and then go back and take it back.
Exactly.
And kind of like that.
Yeah, so like it could be a thing of where it's like half of this is like that first arc, and then the ramifications are like the next one.
Yeah, because maybe major characters die that you couldn't really kind of like do a trailer without mentioning, like showing them the second part or group shots would be hard to do and stuff.
Yeah, maybe
like
they killed Deku.
So, do it. I would make Baku's the main character. We've already seen him. He's already received the quirk once. Give him the quirk the second time. Just commit. Just give him all for one.
Do it, you coward. Just do it.
So I think that is kind of a really good point. And I think it feels like we're at a turning point of where things feel like they're actually changing in My Hero. I think especially at the end of last season, it's not going to be, I don't think we'll ever be able to have another sports festival arc again at this point. I mean, we're going into a war in the hero world. I
mean, to be fair though, the Shi Haseki like raid was kind of like a war. It was pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell, but I mean, I feel like the war, our raid looked like 30 heroes in that one building, plus a bunch of cops. I mean, this looks like there's hundreds of heroes. We don't even see cops. They're like, hey, cops, don't even come because this is outside of your pay grade. Like, I feel like that's kind of what the trailers are teasing, because we don't see the detective at all. He's never brought in. Like, this feels like a hero versus villains things versus a public safety kind of thing. Unless you
Well,
feel differently, but we haven't seen cops, so I don't think they're even involved in this.
No, probably not. The scale is definitely significantly larger. Because if you look at kind of like what we've been seeing, it doesn't ever look like we're in like a cityscape either.
It's like
Like,
one spot the entire time.
Yeah,
Just open
it's like
field.
we're like, yeah. It's got some like Great Ninja War feels where it's just like off into the off into the abyss, just happening in like a nice little vacuum.
Two
which is
sides
kinda
running at each other. And you just hear
Yeah.
people screaming my
They're
leg.
running, dude,
Yep.
just mock chicken at each other. Oh baby, let's go.
Which would be a good chance for a lot of kind of cool little cameos and like references and stuff like that. But I think the most important question we have to ask, and something that'll be a very big debate between all of us, is episode 1 going to be a recap?
It has to be. It
It
has to be.
doesn't. It
Every
does not have to be.
single year. No, every single year we go, maybe this time.
Yeah, we do.
Maybe this time. It always is. It always is. Every single time. I mean,
Do you
last
think
like
it'll at least be a relevant flashback? Like, oh, they're preparing for the war and talking about their past things, or is it just gonna be
No.
some random thing?
no, they're gonna be like, wow, this war coming up sure is gonna be tough. We better go to the beach and play volleyball beforehand and have flashbacks to
Top
last
War
season.
style. I mean, Top Gun
Give me,
style.
give me the beach episode, dude. Give me it. Just get it done and over with. Oh God. But
I don't think so. I think they break it this season. I think there's going to be a lot happening. I think they're going to break in. If they do, there is going to be at least fully related to the war. There ain't going to be a flashback. There's not going to be a beach episode. It is going to be about what's happening and building up to it. Even if none of it's canon, I still think it's going to be building up to it. I think it has
Alright,
to this season.
It's time to do the bet. Who's standing where? I'm standing on, yes, it is going to be a cheesy flashback episode that's going to be barely relevant. Like it's going to be on the level of the interview guy coming in. James is with me.
Yeah, I'm taking that action.
Where do you
I
stand?
try to have faith, Andrew. I've tried to have faith that it wouldn't happen, but it's gonna happen. We just got to accept it.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be a canon episode. I don't think it is going to change the world, but I don't think it's going to be irrelevant. Not irrelevant, completely random. I don't think it's going to be taking you to a different place in time. I think it's going to be within it. So, again, I agree. It's going to be kind of recap-ish, but I think it's going to be more useful than that. Unless they bring back Mr. Smiley. If they bring back Mr. Smiley, I'm okay with it being a completely random episode. Just give me 30 minutes of just Mr. Smiley being screamed in my ears.
Oh my
That's
God,
all I
dude.
really want.
Please remove. I just want to
I've
remove
gone
that
back
memory.
I've gone back and
What a-
rewatched the OVA like 6 times. Clipped it, take pictures. Love it. No, I have not. I've not watched it. I will never watch that one again.
You weren't really breaking a sweat when you said that, and I was like, man, maybe he was just really
No,
into
God,
that.
No, that was horrible. So is there anything else kind of from the season? I think I want to kind of move into kind of wrapping up at least a little bit of stuff on our side, what to kind of expect. Is there anything else season 6 that we kind of want to talk about briefly?
I feel like we've covered really everything that we think is gonna go on. Like,
And again, we did do big questions for both manga and anime readers for season 6 coming up. So like moments manga readers are excited to see, big questions for anime readers. So I think some of that stuff there, we kind of didn't talk about here as well. This was just kind of an informational / quick conversation kind of episode. So if you want to kind of go more into depth, depending on how much of the manga you've read, or if you're only an anime only watcher, go back and listen to those episodes. That'll open up a lot more things. We dive into things a little bit more deep there. This was just kind of one last chat before season 6. So with that, I want to talk a little bit more about what's to kind of expect from us from this season. So as you saw at the beginning of the episode, I am going to promise each and every one of you students that there will be a lot more cringe this season. Number 2, our general structure for if this is your first time going through season recaps with us is going to be very similar to what we've done in the past, with minor changes here and there. We're still kind of finalizing some of that, but it is going to be very general. We're going to open up, we're going to talk for 30 seconds, a minute, then I will jump into a very quick recap. We'll give our thoughts on kind of what happened throughout the episode, a couple main points, and then our little normal kind of conversations from there. And then we'll give a plus ultra reward at the end of every single episode. You probably heard about that in last week's episode of the season 5 recap, but pretty much at the end of every single episode, each one of us picked someone that went beyond, that went plus ultra, our school motto, and decides that, which we tally up at the end of the season to really see who went plus ultra throughout the entire season the most. So that is kind of going to be what it's looking like normally. But also, if there are topics or if there are things from other podcasts, we're not saying we're going to take things from other podcasts, but if there are things you like seeing incorporated or something you really want us to do, drop a comment down below. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know however you want. We're always open to kind of changing things. What do you got, Dylan?
I'm gonna say it. I'll shamelessly steal stuff. We can do it better than them. Just give us your favorite type of segment. We'll do it better.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go off that. So give us feedback of what segments, what things you want included in the podcast going forward, and we'll do our best to do it. We want to try to incorporate consumer listener questions and all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm mixing work language and podcast
Did you
language.
say consumer? Is that what you
Consumer
said?
questions. I
This is why he's the big
work.
business hero.
Exactly. Yep. It's my hero work going into the podcast a little bit. So we're gonna bring all that in. So we just want to hear more from you guys. It's something I really want to focus on this season. But what else are we gonna be doing this season in terms of content? So Dylan is gonna be picking back up his fan favorite in a nutshell videos, which every single week he's gonna be doing a 60-second recap of the episode. We're just figuring out exactly when that's happening, making sure we don't burn him out. But those are some of my favorite content we do, so make sure to check that out, and we'll advertise that plenty. Otherwise, we're going to be continuing with the manga recaps each and every Sunday, and then our podcast episodes, as I said, will be on Saturday mornings as soon as we can watch it and get it out. Outside of that, we might do random one-off videos here and there related to My Hero Academia if something really big happens. If Deku gets all 7 quirks, maybe we'll do a quick video on Deku getting all 7 quirks, and stuff kind of like that. So they're not planned per se, but if something really strikes any of us, we might have a quick podcast episode or YouTube video there as well. So to stay updated with everything, youtube.com/class1a. That's where we're going to be doing publishing everything we do. And then, of course, you can find us on all podcasting platforms across the world. Some of our videos do not make it on there just because of the format. So make sure to follow both. And twitter.com/class1apod is where you can be able to keep up with everything. It's the culmination of everything we do. So that's really the best one stop to get all of the information on us and any other anime content that we're doing. Before we wrap up this class, guys, is there any last things you want to say before we move into season 6?
Get hype. It's almost here. It's going to be so good.
Well, get hype, but expect the recap episode the first week. Just
That's true, yeah.
brace,
Set your
just brace
expectations.
for
Get hyped
that.
for
Just
2
be
weeks
aware
away.
that it's gonna happen.
No,
and
it's part of the experience is to get overhyped and disappointed by the first episode.
That's
Come on,
true.
James.
That's true.
my bad. My
But-
bad.
We will see you all for the first true class of the season on October 1st, next Saturday. Thank you all so much for listening to us during this off season. If you've been with us the entire time, we enjoyed it a lot, but cannot wait to get back into the actual anime. So we'll see you all then, and thank you for listening.